Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Amateur Australian Overwatch League's 6th season, powered by AOE. My name is Justin, aka Subwaste. I am also joined by Parodius. How do you do this evening?
Not too bad, not too bad. And we are heading in for tonight's match between Junkeroos and That's Toxic. It's been a great day of Overwatch so far if you've been following along with the Overwatch League, and hopefully we're going to see some more great Overwatch tonight.
Yes, it's been a beautiful day for a whole lot of esports, covering many different genres, and yes, the Overwatch League is a big focal point now, and now we get to see a new batch of memories being made, and we move to the first map, which is Lijiang Tower, and we will go to the control center first with, I think it's the Junkeroos on the left, and the team of That's Toxic on the right-hand side in the red.
Absolutely, and hopefully our spectator camera is sort of pointing the right direction for that to match up, but if not, so be it. We are indeed going to have Junkeroos in the blue and That's Toxic in the red as we get things started here in Control Center. And so it's definitely going to be an interesting matchup here. Obviously a lot of tank-heavy lineups we usually see here in Control Center. That said, Ringo Stars is hovering that Sombra. We've seen Sombra be very powerful in these tank-heavy compositions as well.
Really proficient in shutting down abilities, just being an absolute pest. Like many similarly built characters of old in other titles, but we are down. We are into it. The gates are down, and in the server side there is a full-blown engagement, and the Junkeroos are really being forced to heal early, with Silent being hacked and being shut down quite heavily, and then brought out of the fight. Acer does get the trade and wins the battle of the Brigaders, but you will give this to the Toxic side, and the Toxic sludge will run over the Junkeroos as the point unlocks.
Absolutely, that opening hack from Ringo, absolutely huge, getting it onto the Reinhardt early, puts so much pressure on the members of Junkeroos, and as a result, they do get bullied back, sort of looking like they were going to try and contest the point there, even without all the members of their team, but they do get punished, and they are now going to get pushed back to their spawn area, as That's Toxic looks to set up a camp here on this opening choke.
Well, this could be a huge turning point for basically locking down the Junkeroos, especially with Sombra being so maneuverable, and Social Socks ejects Rusty, what's known as Rusty, and then Zala does get down, but you could give it did look a little bit good with that opening window for the Junkeroos, but then as quickly as the door was opened, it was slammed right in their face, and it looks like the fight will be moving towards that Toxic, but they've moved out onto the point, and it looks like the Junkeroos are still wanting to fight.
Absolutely, and pulling out a couple of ultimates there. Really late Shatter coming through and just binning Tranquilo there means that now the Junkeroos have a presence on this point. They do need to clean up a couple of members on the point, and Xylo going down is not going to help them. This is really anyone's fight, but with that DMAC coming through onto Rankster there, it's definitely starting to turn back in favor of That's Toxic. The sound barrier there should mean the end of this fight, and that is amazing for them, because not only have they pulled a lot of resources out of the Junkeroos, but through that whole fight, point progress still ticking up in their favor, and now we're down to one fight territory.
Yeah, one fight for both sides, and the EMP from Ringo could be huge, especially given all the members of the Junkeroos are gathered up, and that is 5 out of the 6. That is the entire team blown up out of the sky. The electromagnetic pulse goes off, and that is the team bell sounded for that Toxic. And well, you can basically call it a compound, and well, if it was a nuclear power plant, it would have been running at full capacity. That is a shutout for that Toxic. 100-0 for first point.
Absolutely, and that fight in the middle there, it really did look like the Junkeroos had the advantage there, but they're just not able to clean up the kills fast enough. As a result, the members of That's Toxic able to reinforce, get their people back onto the point. Following that with some very key pickups with the right target priority coming through to really blunt the Junkeroos' ability to sustain a fight, and they're able to wrest back control of that point, or at least wrest back the territory. The point itself remains in their control the whole time. So really nicely played. And it looks like we will be seeing some adaptations here as we move over onto Night Market. Ringo going over to the Brigida, but Xylo actually going over to the Sombra. So we'll see how this one plays out.
So usually you see both of these compositions mirrored, and Ringo Stars has already been a high priority target. Was brought down extremely low very early, and looking towards actually Naya as the Diva was getting chucked down quite heavily as well. It's still being focused upon, and Infinity, in amongst that entire opening monologue, already has an Earthshot in her hand, let it go, and had kicked the legs right out from underneath the toxic lineup. And now the points unlocked, and there is a full-blown fight for control of the territory, and with the hack onto Cash as the Zarya, that was pretty much that. The Junkeroos will strike first blood in the Night Market.
Absolutely, that was a huge shatter from Infinity coming out, slamming down quite a lot of members there of That's Toxic. It's absolutely what they needed to get their heads back in the game, and now they're in a really great position as the next fight breaks out.
There was rallies in stereo for both sides, and with Ace, with the entire Junkeroos really wanting to apply the pressure now that they have the point in their hands, and the positioning basically being dictated by them for their opposition is just basically a clean up season. A couple of members are hacked, and there's a boot from Acer for good measure onto Cash, and well, in amongst that entire fight, there was a tiny bit invested with the Earth Shatter from Infinity, but it's well worth it to buy themselves more time.
And that one was actually so close from the members of That's Toxic. They managed to Social Socks either manages to block line of sight or gets a Zarya bubble right before that EMP goes off. Either way, the Zenyatta does not get picked up in the EMP when the rest of their team does. But the answering Transcendence rather from Button does close that one out. Here we have the ultimates coming in. Diva Bomb over the top doesn't get much, but Bananas has gone down early here.
That is a crucial part of this entire lineup to go down to the bleachers, and Ringo Stars has decided to rally the troops and are now starting to envelop onto the point proper. And the defenses did not stand for that much longer. Rusty and Button did end up going down. Asa is now just trying to ride the walls and bleed a bit more time to hopefully get the comrades on the blue side of the Junkeroos to come back, but that did not end up taking place. And now That's Toxic are in the position to accrue percentage.
Absolutely, but at 89%, they really only need one more team fight, and they'll be able to get this point and put a 1 into their score boxes as well. Here comes the rally as they push in. This is the fight they're going to go for.
That's a big EMP coming, 5 targets to the one it didn't get. Social Socks got absolutely wiped out, and just as quickly as they had acquired it, Junkeroos ripped it right from their hands. And like you said, it was one fight territory, and well, this fight is just about to go down, and it looks like the side of That's Toxic would be fully equipped. That is the Graviton Surge to bring everybody together like a loving party, but no, it's not a loving party at all. The Junkeroos have basically shut them out, and we are tied at 1, and we have to decide it all on the Garden.
Absolutely, and this is a great map for the tiebreaker because it usually does lend itself to a different playstyle than the other two maps. So this is where we see the full range of these teams potentially, as there's a lot more opening to actually play some DPS heroes on this map. Looks like, so far at least, we are both hovering over the Sombra picks, but Tranquillo over onto the Winston as well means we are going to be seeing a very different lineup here from That's Toxic, whereas we are going to be seeing a bit more of the same from Junkeroos, and why wouldn't we? They were looking great on Night Market.
Be right back.
Well, really stick to what works. There's a little bit more dive with Tranquillo going as the Winston and Infinity as the Reinhardt, so we're not going to see a duel of the Germans. It looks like we're wasting no time. Cash has been sent to rest by Button. That is a big acquisition very early on in the fight. As the point does begin to unlock, you give the positional advantage to the Junkeroos, but the trades are going back and forth. Naira's Zarya is really laying the hurt down and making the part of the cannon put everybody on notice, but Junkeroos have drawn the first chance to get percentage for themselves.
Yeah, and we do see Tranquillo swapping over to the Reinhardt there, which does sort of make sense, because it was a little unusual to be running Winston with the Brigida's Zaya. That said, they are pushing back really nicely here. Naya picking up a couple, and it looks like they're actually going to just muscle their way onto the point there before the members of Junkeroos are able to reinforce after the last fight. So the earlier respawns and reinforcements coming through lead to that quick cap, and at 20% on the clock, they are going to start now bringing up a percentage of their own.
Asa is taxing the rest of the Junkeroos into position. Button's actually been hacked, but was not quite dealt with as well as someone would have liked. I'm almost certain. And there is the Graviton surge for the other side. The EMP had claimed 3 there for the Junkeroos, but that would be a full-blown fight breaking out on both sides. But the EMP's being extremely effective. This feed will be extremely blue now for the Junkeroos. And the point has been wrestled back. And like you said in the interim, Peronius, this would be one of the best points for this set to be figured out on. It's entirely back and forth.
Absolutely, and Ringo there unfortunately not getting the EMP out in time to prevent the Transcendence, and so a lot of the benefit of that cancelled out as the team members already caught in the Graviton, losing their cooldowns, not a big deal there, but the fact that the Zen had already popped the Trance out means that they can weather through that, and then with the EMP of their own push through and retake the point. Now they've got their own grab here, and there's the answering Transcendence. Oh, but it looks like they've actually overlapped support ultimates here, and Ringo still goes down early.
That's a bit of a miscue, and Ringo going down could have giant implications. Infinity does have the Earth Shatter at the ready. Did kick the legs out of Cash, and the counterpart in Tranquilo. You're going to be Tranquilo anymore. You are fetched. And the Junkeroos so far are hanging on extremely strong as the percentage meter continues to climb. We're just moving into 75 now, with Xylo actually being hacked.
Yeah, that's a good advantage there, but it looks like they'll still get back to safety. So Ringo not quite able to follow up on that one, but he's getting into position. Both Sombras about to have their next EMPs. However, the Junkeroos looking a bit better in the ultimate fight.
Xylo's actually lost his translocator. It was snuffed out there by Ringo, but that is huge. Huge on both sides, 3 for each. But who gets the better of it? It will be the Toxic Squad in the interim, and has basically laid everybody out. Ace is just trying to bleed the clock, but the Junkeroos have gotten to 99, and now the fight begins for that Toxic. They have to climb and basically level things to win out this map. So you can basically balance this on the edge of a knife as to who will end up getting the upper hand.
Absolutely, but you do see a lot of ultimates online for the Junkeroos. They only need to win one team fight, whereas That's Toxic need to win the next 2. A lot of pressure on the members of That's Toxic to win this one out, especially considering the sheer map ultimates coming in. There's an early Transcendence from them, and another overlapping of support ultimates, this time in favor of the That's Toxic, is really going to help out here in this role.
And that Transcendence will help people weather up, but we're not expecting the follow-up Graviton by Rangstad, and that will be pretty much that for the side of the Junkeroos. They'll tip over. Overtime will tick down. The bell will sound. Does not look like the touch will be possible. Junkeroos will take Lijiang 2 maps to 1.
Absolutely, and it really just comes down to raw ult economy in the end there. Both those teams pulling out ultimates and counter ultimates in turn. But the Junkeroos, they've got a deeper pocket. They can keep reaching in to pull out more fight-winning ultimates. And in the end, even though they overlap the 2 support ultimates, they still have enough tools in their kit to still have ultimates left, as the members of That's Toxic have already played all their cards. So in the end, superior ult economy wins out. And as a result, the Junkeroos able to take Lijiang Tower. We will be now moving over to the escort mode, and it's going to be interesting to see where we're looking to take things.
Yes, indeed. The red side of That's Toxic do get the power of choice in our next discipline. Curious to actually see where we end up for that for the next set. And we're going to Rialto.
Yeah, very, very common pick for this escort mode. A lot of teams preferring Rialto, which sort of makes sense when you consider how tank-heavy lineups have been, how dominant they've been. Rialto is definitely the game mode, the game map rather, that plays better into that. Whereas Dorado, you often need to change your compositions a lot. You need to swap off your traditional 3-3 ground-based competition for the second point, unless you're able to snowball it through, because otherwise that high ground can just be an absolute nightmare to try and push through. Rialto, you can get away with just playing the same comp all the way through, and there's still room to play other compositions as well. So there's still a lot of room for versatility there, but at the same time, you find yourself less required to swap your composition just based on map geometry alone. So as a result, it's not too surprising to see teams generally favor Rialto as the choice here.
Yeah, so this is for all the points that you did mention. It's one of those maps where basically a lot of compositions can work, but a lot of them can cater to both the upper and lower parts of the map, because there are a lot of balconies and buildings and things like that to have both sides take advantage of. And there's the infamous bridge at the opening point where, at least at the inception of the map, at the first versions of the map when it was released, we saw many a player sadly go into the drink and go swimming when they hadn't bought their floaties.
Yeah, absolutely. And certainly we do still see some compositions looking to go for that early hold up towards the bridge, but a lot more people favoring a hold at the start of this courtyard here. People have realized that the cart takes enough time traveling through the courtyard and the spawn is close enough that even if you lose a fight at the start of the courtyard, you can get one more at the end of it. And so favoring sort of the angles and territory control that holding the courtyard gives you, so you do get a lot of favorable high ground there. But we still do see the occasional really early hold as well. A lot of very good defensive points on this map in general. This first point can be an absolute nightmare to take if the defense is allowed to dig in.
Yes, as you did mention, the entire courtyard past the first bend is a pretty common stalling point if the defense is up to snuff, and we'll wait and see as to how that will transpire, how far that will get. Junkeroos will be the attackers on the cart, the defenders will be. That is toxic, and I'm really curious to see how Ringo on the McCree will play out against this composition.
Yeah, a bit of a controversial choice there, considering how vulnerable McCree is just getting run over by a freight train. But yeah, so far working out for them as they get the early kill onto Bananas. And just for our viewers out there, reiterating that Junkeroos are now playing from the reds. We have had a team color switch.
Yes, indeed. It will also say above the player's name at the bottom left. Junkeroos are on the right, the red, and that Toxic are in the blue on the left-hand side.
And now it looks like we will be getting into this second fight.
And the attackers are slowly inching forward. That is a trade 1-for-1. Infinity will put the fire right to catch. That is a big shatter from Tranquilo, but there is anything but tranquility in amongst that. That was just raw German power. And a big hammer for the Reinhardt on the defense.
Oh, I would argue that a lot of those players hitting the ground felt a deep sense of tranquility as they were sent back to spawn.
Yeah, either that or rearranging of their organs. Who knows?
Who knows?
It looks like the side of the Junkeroos decided to wrap around by the alleyway. Gets bunched up by the Graviton Surge. And the damage has been laid on thick and fast, and Ringo Stars actually is almost at a deadeye, and Acer had claimed a huge pair in a boop over the edge towards the canal there. So that is another bridge that is maybe a little bit overlooked compared to the main drag, but still, it might not be as impactful as he probably would like, but still a feather of the cap nonetheless.
Yeah, definitely that's Toxic going to find that one a bit of a bridge too far as they end up having to give up a lot of ground there. It's a shame their ultimate rotation had been so good, but here comes the ultimates back. Very nice EMP into Shadow there, and that's going to be a quick team fight.
quick and easy as you like, and well, that's what you want as an attacking team. Have them be proficient, and you see a couple of the tanks go over towards the first bridge of the second point, and that's Ringo's side brought down extremely late, and that's pretty much preventing that Toxic from even getting the touch. That Graviton will basically seal the deal for it, and that is the first checkpoint down with 3 minutes and 40 on the clock for them.
Absolutely, and a good Graviton there. I don't know if the Nano onto Infinity was necessary there. They probably had already achieved everything they really needed to there, but it's still paying out. If he wasn't already going to build his Shadow from swinging to that Grav, he certainly got it with the help of the Nano. And that's going to mean that the attackers here now have a really nice ult rotation going through. Infinity's going to have his Shadow for the next fight, and by the looks of it, Rankster should have another Grav up on the fight after that. Only just Grav, already at 50%.
A really proficient Zarya is one of the most scary things you can see. And there is the Earthshatter in stereo. Ringo Starr tells the time. That is 3 hitting the deck, and this attack will finally cease its progress just outside of the docks.
Absolutely, and they needed that to stabilize here. Now they've got control of the payload, and they can potentially, from that position, still get a second defense on point B as well. It's not out of the question, although it certainly won't be a fun scramble for that defense. But that early kill onto Xylo is definitely going to play in their favor here. And it looks like we're still going to have the Junkeroos commit to a fight here now. No, they are backing up.
There is the Graviton. Perhaps the Graviton was a bit of a misfire, but there are 2 frags there for that Toxic to basically seal the deal for them. So Naya perhaps erring on the side of caution, knowing that he will get another one soon enough. But looking at the side of the Junkeroos, they are loaded for bear and extremely scary. Especially with Button having the Nano boost. Keep an eye on how that is used, and that is the rallying call from Bananas. The members of the Junkeroos are moving forward. The rally goes back in turn. Infinity is brought down extremely low, and then eventually brought out of the fight. So that Earthshatter is no use when the combatant is no longer there. And while the Junkeroos are on their keels early, there is a big EMP! The entire squad is wiped out in terms of their abilities, and I know no members went down, but that is a big chance to really scatter. There was the Deadeye from Ringo, did not fare much, but was a big enough threat. And while this car does make progress, it's stuck at an extremely tight choke point, and you can basically flip a coin as to how this ends. Ragtag and Tranquilo have bagged 1, but Tranquilo and Naya have basically told the Junkeroos to go back for the docks. There's no swimming allowed here, and we are down to under a minute.
Absolutely, and that a very long scrappy fight there. It took a lot of different tools from the defenders of that Toxics there. They didn't get anything with the Deadeye, they didn't get anything with the Shatter. Finally, they get the Grav up, and that one's able to give them the results they need. But there's still a fair few tools coming through from the Junkeroos on this offense here. Another Shatter comes out from Infinity, not able to get through the shield, and Silas gone down early. This could be rough.
Extremely so. There's the Graviton surge for the members there. Big Nano boost onto Infinity. Did not really get as much as you would have liked. It actually brought extremely low and then out of the fight. Both of the tanks are actually gone despite Tranquilo being hacked by Xylo. It's to basically no avail, and we are down into overtime. There was a brief touch there from the attackers of the Junkeroos, but it was to no avail, and that will be the end of that. And just outside the docks, the payload will cease its momentum, and it is up to that Toxic to match it and get themselves a map on the board.
Absolutely, you got to be pretty happy with stopping it there though. It's not common that this payload is stopped on the second point. Usually, if you can cap through A, you're going to get it all the way to 3. That's where the real defensive grind starts. But unfortunately, the Junkeroos get stopped a bit earlier than they would have liked there. That's Toxic able to just clutch out these fights, able to just keep fighting. There was a couple of grabs getting thrown out that just weren't getting enough members of the defenders there to properly get the full wipe going. I mean, there was one that only picked up the Brigida, and unfortunately, part of that I think was the timing between the Grav and the EMP. With the EMP coming out slightly before, it had everyone backing up already, and as a result, the Grav from Naya just not able to grab as many people as they really wanted in that to be able to push through. So just a couple of slight micro plays there, not quite syncing up how you'd want it, and it leads ultimately to a really successful defense. And now the Junkeroos have a lot of pressure on them to try and stop it here at A.
And it's not out of the realm of possibility. Let's not write that off. But you did mention it, and I agree that there were a couple of mistimings there that were really to the detriment of on both sides, but a lot more to the Junkeroos when they were on attack. And hopefully they can tighten that up and become a more rhythmic Overwatch symphony. Now the gates are down, and that's Toxic are now moving this payload.
Ooh, here comes Asa going for the boob, doesn't get anything, but is going to get out unpunished.
No, actually Asa would be extremely lucky to get away with that, because he was extremely blatant about it and really keeping everybody on their toes on the defense. Is Ringo Stars have gotten the hack onto A-Star, which is a big get. If one of the members goes down thanks to Ringo, that is a huge get, but Ringo gets stunned and only just ends up staying alive, and Tranquilo ends up being booped up in the air, but still comes down like macho madness and almost gets the ejection onto the D.Va, and is a big enough assistance to the rest of the Toxic squad to really wipe them out. And well, that was about as clean as you would have liked for that Toxic.
And that late kill onto Acer is not good news either. If he'd backed up a little more, a little quicker, maybe he can taxi his team forwards. They get the recontest on A. As it stands, they're not going to be able to get another fight there, and that is really dangerous. They can't afford to be giving up things so easily. They basically end up losing A from losing only one team fight. That's never a position you want to be in.
Definitely not. And look at Ringo. He does have the EMP to hand. There is the rally called out from Button and the Earth Shadow from Infinity, and that is a bloody EMP from Ringo Stars. But with all that being said, they're still trading 1-for-1. But with the HP advantage going over to the Junkeroos, you would slightly give it to them. And yes, indeed, it looks like the payload will stall out briefly, but will keep on its journey. And now we are definitely in one and done territory here, Peronius.
Absolutely, this is getting really dangerous. The members of the Junkeroos need to come up with something. Infinity going down there now. That is absolutely devastating, and Banana's dead as well. They're not even going to be able to get on this one. It looks like this is over. There won't be another team fight, and that is just tragic.
That is the end of that. That Toxic will take Rialto, and we are tied at 1.
Absolutely, and just not a great defense there coming out from the Junkeroos at all. There really were only 2 team fights in that defense, and there's a couple of problems there. That is people backing up instead of taking the fight where you need to take it to get a second fight. Infinity is getting a lot of pressure being put on him, and he's just not getting enough support from his team to prevent him from not going down early in these fights. And it's leading to people going for the big, risky ultimate plays to try and equalize things, because it really, you could tell that the psychological state of the team was coming undone. They need to regather themselves as we head over to Assault, because that defense was looking very sloppy, and that's something they definitely need to tighten up.
Yeah, in due time, because we're guaranteed at least a few more maps. We're guaranteed at least 4, with it being tied at 1. And the next battleground will be the tried and true 2CP, at least for the region. We're going to Hanamura, and it's basically a tale of 2 different types of defense, as in either the defense will really hulk up and dig in, or the attackers will just basically roll over, and we see the the round counter go up to the likes of 6 or 7.
Absolutely. We can definitely does go both ways here over at everyone's favorite Saltamura. And at this point, I sort of wonder why we've even got Temple of Anubis in the map pool, because no one wants to take it to Anubis. No one likes Anubis. So everyone's always taking it to Hanamura. So as a result, I think all the teams probably practice Hanamura a lot more, and it just becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy. So perhaps unsurprisingly, we'll be going over to Hanamura. It looks like we will be having That's Toxic defending first. And it's going to be interesting to see what sort of defense we see out of them here, because we've seen a couple of different variations.
Yeah. And now the game is actually live. We will travel to the Tranquil Temple with the Cherry Blossoms, which, well, as Baronius did allude to, it's the site of many a amount of salt being thrown around.
Yeah, absolutely. But as I said, it's really going to come down to which style of defense That's Toxic favors here. We've seen a couple of different things. We've seen the standard 3-3 composition on defense. We've seen the May variant of it, fondly nicknamed Snotes. We've also seen, and it looks like we will be seeing again, perhaps, the Bastion Orisa-based defense. So definitely a bit of an interesting look. A bit of a different one, but one that some teams can really struggle to deal with.
So with that much damage being pumped out, you can't figure out a way to deal with it. At least that's the trial and tribulation of some of the squads, at the very least.
Well, absolutely. When you're running the 3-3, you're running that GOATS composition. It's all about running over targets. It doesn't really do well at contesting the high ground. You have to go over an awful lot of open ground to even get at that Bastion. The only person you can commit at it to stop it immediately is the Diva, and she's going to get melted the moment her defense matrix is down. Yeah, so we'll see how they play against this.
And you hear the remember Ringo Starr just ripping up the attackers, and Infinity had gone down early thanks to Tranquilla on the Orisa. So this setup will be extremely difficult to dislodge if this ends up continuing, because if you look at the ults, even very early on, Cash is already building up pretty decently to a Dragon Strike as well, and now the squad of the Junkeroos have actually moved underneath.
Ringo, what are you doing,
and
mate?
Ringo just got absolutely pummeled. Might be regretting that one, and Button has basically done their part to break this defense right open, and that is one of the big downfalls of that setup. Once it's shattered, it basically explodes in just spectacular fashion, and there is nothing that Toxic could do. And already the blue side of that Toxic will have to really go into defensive mode and reconfigure how they will approach things, and it looks like that's exactly what's happened. Look how many changes have just taken place.
Yeah, absolutely. They're going over to the double sniper-based defense now. They've also picked up the Moira, which is a bit of an interesting decision there, considering how spread out the team's going to be playing. I'm not sure if he's the right choice, but a good Dragon Strike through there is going to take out Infinity, and that means we are probably going to see the members of the Junkeroos back off. But I just want to take us back to that first point defense, because it looks like they tried to rotate onto the point as the attackers push their way through. All social stocks going down there might be an opportunity, actually. There may be a fight here. No, that's just going to be cleaned up there by the remaining members of that stock. As a result, things are very late staggers, buying some extra time. But yes, as I was saying, it looks like they were going for trying to rotate onto the point very late, and Ringo on the Bastion just jumps down practically into the oncoming freight train of the comp. Very questionable decision that hands over the point.
Yeah, always obey the signs and mind the gap, or you will be run over by trains. That is not a fun time. But looking at the Junkeroos, their current economy, well, not that really matters. Button has got a round right between the Omnic eyeballs, and well, that might even cause the Junkeroos to back off losing their healer. Yeah, it looks like that's exactly what will happen.
Yeah, they absolutely have to back off. They can't push in without the Zenyatta. The Discord orb that he provides is too crucial for providing damage for them, and the extra healing, very important to keeping them alive. But now they've regrouped and regathered, they're going to push in now, and there's the grab.
That's on surge from Bananas. There is the Dragon Strike to try and part the seas. It's not successful in doing such a thing, and Naira on fire is trying to douse the attackers, and Ringo Starr's has actually been taken out of the fight, and the Demons actually claim a pair of frags, just whittling down this defense ever slowly yet surely, and you can say it's just blown cash away. But now it is not a matter of if, it is a matter of when. Highly likely for the side of the Junkeroos, and we see the stall tactics go out for that Toxic. Tranquilo as the Wrecking Ball, Nara on fire as the Moira trying to keep comrades up and healthy.
Grab dragons. Oh, that gets eaten! The dragons get eaten!
Yeah, the dragons did end up getting chopped. There was one part, but not the other. I ate the ingredients before they actually went to the bowl. And now it is only a matter of time. Tranquilo is getting enough time to keep the single file going for the side of that Toxic, just trying to bleed the clock, and they've done a decent job of it, given that they started with roughly 4 minutes and 50 before this current time. We're running into 3 minutes and 40 now, and only just now that Toxic have been evacuated from the point, but the longer the blue side can keep going in, the less time they do have to hand. But finally, that Toxic have been repelled off of the point, and that will be a second one on the board for the Junkeroos.
Absolutely, and a very nice stall coming out, as you said, a lot of time being bled off the clock there. We see the members managing to stagger themselves on one after the other just to go for maximum time, and as a result, they've bought quite a bit of time back. They came so close to being able to stabilize there with that grab. Getting 2 people in it could have been huge, but unfortunately does get the dragons for the follow through, does get eaten by the Diva. Absolutely hate to see it. And with that gone, it really was the best last hope for a defensive stabilization there. And so as a result, we will be moving over to see that's Toxic on their attack as they look to set a better time on this offense.
Ready for battle.
We will wait and see what composition ends up being chosen by that Toxic. They might try and preemptively think that the Junkeroos will mirror the composition that Toxic had gone with in their opening defense, but it doesn't look like that will be what is chosen. We're seeing the Winston, Reinhardt, Zara. Well, essentially goes with an Ana. This one.
It's a bit of an interesting one because they are running the Winston instead of the Diva. That is a bit unusual there, but it's definitely going to be scattered out. Ringo on the Sombra. It's going to get some early scouting in for the team before they commit to their push. So it's going to be interesting to see what... actually, it looks like they will all just be running up the barrel with that Sombra, so no scouting at all, actually.
No, just running in blind. It already got shocked and found out by the defense, and Button will give Ringo Starr his last rights and just say, no, you can't hack. We've got antivirus here. You can't get through. And it looks like that Toxic basically had the doors shut in their face.
Absolutely.
They did get 2 though, like, on the back of Cash. So that might be the cue to go. And there was a big charge taking out the counterpart Infinity. So as quickly as I said, yeah, the defense is going to hold up. The defense absolutely shattered like cheap brand store crackers, and that will be the end of that. That's Toxic pretty much matched, actually bettered the time of the Junkeroos on their attack. We'll see about 7 minutes, 6 minutes and 55. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was basically like it's not quite a first fight capture. It's sort of like first fight and a half. Bit of a weird one, but yeah, very quick capture there coming through in the first minute, and that's going to give them a big opportunity to set another time here. However, they are running into a lot of ultimates there. Bananas does have the grab online. That can be absolutely huge for preventing the snowball.
The big for putting the wall up. There is the Graviton Surge from Bananas and the Transcendence and the Rally to counteract it. So it's essentially nullified. Tranquilo lays down the hammer, will kick the legs out of the pair. And it looks like Ringo has been dropped out of the game. So the game has been paused momentarily. And well, Australian internet is going to be... Actually, no, it was a PC issue. I was going to go on my signature rant about this country's infrastructure, but that is going to have to wait.
Absolutely. And really the big takeaway from this fight, I mean, it is going very much in favor of the members of That's Toxic on their push in, even with Ringo going down. I think they probably can push through this. And unfortunately, it just comes down to Bananas. It was a good grab, but unfortunately, Button was not in position to throw the anti-grenade into that to prevent the Transcendence healing. If they'd been able to sync that up a bit more, that could have easily been a very nice fight win and team wipe. Unfortunately, Social Sox able to bring out the Transcendence there, and this fight is going to get back underway.
And there was the Earth Shatter being taken out. Zala's actually gotten the better of the counterpart in Cash, but Tranquilo will get the take back frag on that one. And we are into a bit of a back and forth affair. The beat that sucks for Ringo Stars is back, yes, but he is at a reset ulcer charge, but we'll get that very quickly, especially taking out tanks like Infinity. But the SMG go to work, and That's Toxic are in a similar situation to the Junkeroos on their attack, and are just trying to prevent the stall coming out from the opposition of the Junkeroos. But looks like the Junkeroos are actually starting to taper out.
Absolutely. Once you pick up that Reinhardt there, it really is the start of the turn there. The EMP does get committed in from Ringo Stars, provides a lot of pressure, but it doesn't look like they're getting the kills through yet. Infinity is going to be able to stay alive in this grab with the help of the Nano, and that's absolutely huge as he begins to push back.
This might actually bounce on the edge of his hammer. There was the primal rage committed by Rang Stan. Really trying to put the backhand to the rest of the attackers, and just basically on the back of Infinity and his giant hammer and the nano boost from Button, the attackers were thwarted, where it was looking like it was going to be a sure thing, but That's Toxic didn't even get a third out of that. That might sting a little bit.
Absolutely, and that's the scary thing about when you run this very short range team. When you want to be attacking into the grab, you're going to be in the hammer range of the Reinhardt. If you stick the nano onto that Rein, suddenly that hammer range is not somewhere you want to be, and that actually prevents a lot of damage from coming through into following up of that Graviton and gives the defenders a chance to stabilize.
Cash has actually gone down early thanks to Bananas, and with one piece going down, the attackers could basically be wiser to call it off. But looks like That's Toxic really wanting to have a go, and a big EMP from Ringo Stars. That could be the ticket in for That's Toxic, trading 1 for 1 thus far. There is Tranquilo almost dropping the hammer, but ends up being taken out before the hammer actually goes down. And with that, Ultimate committed and getting nothing for it, That's Toxic will have to back off.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you try to take these fights without cash, you're going to have a bad time as your opponent turns around and says, that wasn't very cash money of you. As a result, we are seeing a very solid defense coming out here. They've got a lot of ultimates online for the next push as well. Things are really starting to come apart for That's Toxic. They need to regather themselves. Ringo looks like they're going onto the McCree now, so they are changing some things up. But already they're in a bit of a bad position, and with the ultimate advantage they're playing into, they're probably going to lose the next team fight or two as well as they try and crack open this defense. So that's not looking good for their time back.
And Xylo, just being the absolute pest, almost has an EMP of their own to bear. That's Toxic will likely, as you said, just go through the motions for these next couple of fights, just trying to gather themselves some alt charge. That is a big EMP once again, nailing 4. Ringo Stars get the only reply, and That's Toxic are just being thrown into the toxic vat for now. And the Junkeroos are holding extremely strong, and have only kept reinforcing their barricade, and Ringo Zazax got found out and run down by the defense. So a little bit of a stagger there. And looking at the economy for that Toxic compared to the Junkeroos, that Toxic will basically have to cop another one. Look at the side of the Junkeroos.
Exactly.
Now loaded.
Really comes down to how cheaply they won that last fight. It was just Xylo's EMP. That's all they needed to clean up, and as a result, they have 5 other ultimates. And now Banana's looking like they're going for an early grab.
Yes.
No.
Really want to have a go at it, and Infinity and laid the hammer down and gets the better of Nara on fire. Both of the Gravitons are committed, and which one did get the better value was the one of the defenders, as in Infinity had gotten frags on the follow-up. And yet again, you said it, it was a little bit of efficiency for the defense, a lot more committed compared to the previous fight, but knowing how quickly some of these abilities can be gathered, especially Infinity for these tight spaces with the Earth Shatter. One swing of the hammer, he might not even get to swing the hammer. By the time the fight engages, he will have another Earth Shatter to go. And we are almost at panic stage for that Toxic. We're running to just about 1 minute to get onto the point and stay.
Absolutely, and that's the power of the Nano onto the Reinhardt there. Infinity already has the Shatter up. Ooh, unfortunately gets blocked out, but still a good opening start to the fight with Social Socks going down.
That's a Shatter knocking 2, and that could be the potential opening for the attackers to really get to. They're really trying their hardest. Tranquilo is being kept up by the sound barrier, and that is responsible for sending Ace into the grave, but that is the only frag that Toxic will accrue. And the blue side will be bled dry. We're running under 30 seconds, and Parodius, the attacking side, have barely a thing to bear.
Absolutely, they're going to be having to pushing in very desperately here. They don't have time to play for position, and unfortunately, Xylo has an EMP, which means this is going to be absolutely devastating. Here it comes. Oh, he gets stunned out! That's huge!
Now, we've seen many a stun go out of an EMP. People are becoming very telegraphed at that. There was another pair of Gravitons in stereos. 2 are claimed on each side. As this fight does get underway, it looks like the defense and Infinity and his giant hammer will lay to rest the attack of that Toxic, and looks like the hammer did not corrode away because of the effects. The Junkeroos will take the W, and they now lead the series as we go into our next map. And Infinity, what a performance from him.
Absolutely. You can tell that the team knows where their bread is buttered. Infinity getting the lion's share of these nano boosts, but getting the nano on him right before he hits that fire strike into the grab there means he just delivers so much damage to all the members of that Toxic. And then there's the charge to follow through. They never had a chance. There is a big red glowing Reinhardt in their midst, and he is just going to absolutely destroy them, and they cannot get away.
I guess no matter the era, no matter the setting, no matter the game, German tanks are extremely scary and extremely efficient, and that is a masterclass there. At least I feel for both of the Reinhardts. They've been really putting on shows, but Infinity has been far more flashy. But we are now moving into our next map, and we are going to the classic for Overwatch, at least in this region. We're going to King's Row.
Yep, absolutely. King's Row, favorite map of so many players, and we'll be heading over there very shortly. It means we're probably going to see a whole bunch more Reinhardt play, a whole bunch more Zarya play, and yeah, it's really just probably going to be a bit more of the same. And with that in mind, you have to say it's probably going to favor the Junkeroos. That's Toxic really need to change things up if they want to get ahead back in this series. At the same time, there is plenty of opportunity for some Sombra play here. We've seen how dangerous Ringo can be on the Sombra. If they're able to reprise their previous performance on Rialto, then maybe, just maybe, they can take this to a Game 5. But definitely anyone's game at this point, considering how back and forth these maps have been.
Yeah. And just for a little bit of personal indulgence, I do want to see, at least for the attackers for one of these, I do want to see the Wrecking Ball and just try to do the surprise strat where they just basically roll in with the Lucio as the taxi as well. It doesn't look like that is what we will see. We'll see a lot more of the same. And Xylo sticking to the Sombra that he has been extremely proficient with. It's been basically a duel of the Sombras whenever they've both been on the field, and it's been very interesting to watch, because watching who hacks who's the high priority target, and how many members can be EMP'd in a single go. And we have a little bit more time to wax lyrical, Peronius. The game is paused.
Absolutely. It's going to be interesting to see. Okay, it looks like they're just sorting out the spectators, as I believe one of the team's subs or support staff has come in, so they need to be team locked. But it looks like we will be seeing the classic Moira goats from the defenders here. So they're probably going to be setting up in the hotel to go for an early counter engagement. No, perhaps not. They're just trying to brawl out on the point. Interesting decision. And of course, we will see Xylo on the Sombra for the attack. Here comes the attack through the hotel at lightning speed.
Blazing speed and a quick taxi, and Infinity will start as he means to go on. A big play at the end of the previous map and a big play at the start of it. And well, this attack, what attack it is. Well, it is basically just running over the defense as quickly as you would like, and that is a one and done with scary proficiency. It looks like that's Toxic in no position to even contest. Yeah, you can see the lineup for that Toxic already changing. Naya's now on the Zarya.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's not surprising given these sort of tank-heavy lineups. Momentum is so important. And the defenders basically choose to give up any momentum there. However, a hack onto Infinity here is a real opportunity to turn this back from the defenders here. Naya gets the kill onto Bananas as they aggress forwards. They may be able to pick up Infinity as well. They definitely want to. They need to. And yes, they will get him here now. And so this is going to allow them to stabilize here at this first arch.
Oh, Ringo's just running roughshod with the fingers of being able to hack, and then just railing them down with the SMG and hacking a pack in the pub at the end of the street. So yeah, 5 minutes, but look at where the cart's situated. It is in a really awkward spot for the attackers to try to get to. It looks like they're trying to envelop around with Bananas calling the rally to arms. A big EMP will
huge shatter.
But there's a bigger shatter there from Infinity, and he is still having a lights out performance with that being done and dusted. And well, he just snapped them like a twig, that defense.
Absolutely, but it looks like Ringo is actually harassing Asa on the payload, and that's really going to slow down the progress of this cart and probably force some of the attackers back to really help him out there, which is going to give an opportunity for the defenders to get this one going. It looks like, yeah, they've
really awkward.
Going down there.
They finally stung down Ringo, but definitely not ideal for this side of the Junkeroos. They definitely would have wanted more distance. There is the gravitational surge thrown out from range stat, and Infinity will rack up the kill counter once more. It's basically a one-man band with the supporting cast of the rest of the Junkeroos, and well, from a viewer's standpoint, I think that's fine by me.
Absolutely. I mean, that's Toxic come very close there. They'd stretched the members of the Junkeroos out by forcing more resources committed back to the payload to deal with Ringo. They very nearly bring down the front line, but unfortunately can't quite manage to get the key kill. Infinity getting super low, but managing to back up. And then, of course, because he's still alive, we see him absolutely pushing forwards and destroying. And the late EMP by Ringo is going to slow down this push, but I don't think it's going to stop his team from being wiped. And that is the second point cap. So this is definitely not looking great for That's Toxic, as they're just getting rolled over by the Junkeroos here now.
Oh well, this is King's Row is now property of the Junkeroos, mate. Being a big man with a supporting cast,
huge
does lay out the hammer, does lay out a few, and a big EMP to follow. But Tranquilo has been put to bed. Button and Asa, supporting cast, I will support you in bringing others to their doom, and That's Toxic are really going to be on the heels as the defense is pretty much wiped out. The bell did not sound, but well, you can basically call it a team wipe as the cart will move through unhindered. And well, we are in one and done territory in terms of fights. Look at how much progress has been made.
Absolutely, it was a great counter engagement from Xylo there, and this is really putting so much pressure on. Infinity now has another nano boost. There's the grab. Counter shatter comes through from Infinity, doesn't get anything. It looks like finally the defenders might be able to stabilize here, but even then it's not a guaranteed deal. Infinity's still alive. They do have to commit the EMP into it just to clean up the last few members here. It's definitely a tool they would have liked to keep for another defense.
I think at that point, Peroni should just be, if you were that toxic, you'd be just like, we're going to hold on by any means necessary. Yes, they invested a lot, but when you're on one and done territory, you basically do whatever it takes, and that is just fine. Now Ringo Starr is really being just the best and already getting engagement with an Acer. Really
Absolutely, these teams taking not a lot of time to set up. They're really pushing into each other straight away. You have these brawls starting with 2 or 3 players and the others reinforcing. But Infinity getting very low there, a lot of pressure on, but there's the nano, there's a great counter shatter from Tranquillo, and then the sleep, the counterplay is huge.
It's essentially a back and forth, just drawing cards, seeing who can top who. And there is the Earth Shatter out from Infinity. Still going, and Acer will actually claim Tranquilo. That would be a key frag going on. This has gone from a sweet science into a flat-out brawl with glue and glass, as one member goes down from each side, but now that's toxic, and their defense is significantly weakened with Brigitte taken out of the fray.
Yeah, the defense may be weakened, but they do have the respawn advantage, and they have members reinforcing constantly. Another EMP being thrown in as well. It's great. Infinity getting thrown off the side. Huge pickup, and it's going to completely cancel out that sound barrier. So really nice plays there, and it looks like the defense should be able to stabilize here.
And now on fire with the coalescence going right through the Graviton teammates, keeping them in fighting fit condition. But there was Ringo Starr taken down, and now is back in the fight. We are in basically a full-blown tug of war. You can just sense both of these compositions just headbutting each other, trying to go back and forth in a tug of war to see who is stronger. Ooh. There is Shatters in stereo. It looks like Tranquilo got the better of that one and is laying down the damage. And thank goodness for the healers on the attacking side, really trying to keep everybody up. And Tranquilo did sacrifice his life for it. There is the rally up from Bananas to keep the attackers topped up, fighting fit, full of armor and everything. Naya does have the Graviton Surge, throws it right at their feet and gathers up the entire squad. Big EMP from Ringo Stars, but it is to no avail. The entire feed is now red, and as try as they might on the side of that toxic, the sands of time are starting to run out.
Absolutely, it seems like it'll only be a matter of time here until this is pushed out. Infinity getting another shatter, putting Social Socks on the ground and getting the nano invested into him as well. Means he is going to be coming up big. Frankster's grab gets eaten by Naya. That might be an opportunity here, but they are in desperation mode. They've gone over to the Wrecking Ball with Tranquillo, which means they're not going to be getting those big Reinhardt ults anymore. They really do seem to be just playing for time at this point, trying to get it onto overtime, but I don't know if they're going to make it. That's another big shatter there, preventing the Mei from being able to get to the ice block. There's the cleanup, and there's the gap.
Only a little bit more time is what the side of that Toxic would have really wanted, just to get that into OT, but they do end up capping 3 for the side of the Junkeroos, but they had, compared to how things started,
Absolutely.
They would not be happy with that ending time.
Yeah, they really did buy a lot of time off there at the end there, rather. And I just want to highlight something that happened there in that last fight as well. We saw Tranquillo get a huge shatter, which was absolutely massive, but then not a lot of follow through from it. And that's down to Asa, the Lucio from the attacking team, who manages to boop him to one side as he goes for the fire strike. Everyone was lined up in a line, would have been a huge damage fire strike, but that boop connects at the right time to send him off target. Fire strike sails through the air, completely missing everything. So huge heads up play there from Asa, really shutting down the follow through from Tranquillo's shatter, gives his team time to stabilize so that they can then counter engage and push through.
And you know the fire strike when it's used correctly on players that are medium to low HP, it can be a real big threat. So as you did say, a big play from Asa to knock the opposition off target and really make things a lot more difficult, because not only with the positions but with the cart stalls, I noticed as well on the attack there for the Junkeroos. There were a couple of instances where they were getting blindsided by the opposition's Lucio and just getting a lot more time for that attack, just basically being stayed in place. But the gates are now down for that Toxic to try and match or exceed the time. And looks like we'll see the fight really go extremely quickly. We're seeing a mirror of the previous round in terms of how quickly these engagements do take place.
Cool, big opening hack onto Rankster though is going to put a lot of pressure down onto the defenders there. Infinity going down early as well means that this one is probably going to be another clean teamfight win. Much like our previous A, looks like it's perhaps not quite as quick, but it's certainly going to be a quick one nonetheless.
I'd say you'd be right in the money, maybe even slightly quicker, because there was a tiny instance where the Junkeroos did bleed out the clock, and yeah, there was a brief touch there for that Toxic to really contend with, but that's about as clean as you would have liked for the attack of King's Row, and we have 5 minutes and 25 on the...
Absolutely, and we're getting into a very early brawl. Tranquilo getting very deep there in a lot of trouble, but is looking like he'll manage to get out in time. A lot of resources being committed. That's a huge,
big shatter,
huge EMP, big shatter to follow through, and that is absolutely going to bust open this defense.
Keep calm, keep cool, keep tranquilo. That is the order and mantra that Tranquilo fittingly is observing right now. Just as easy as you like. Ringo comes in for the engage, and then the rest of the comrades on that Toxic are there to clean it up. Do you think, Peronius, that we'll see a match of the time? And looks like Junkeroos had already really wanted to engage on Ringo Stars for that one.
Well, any opportunity you get to take down that Sombra is one you absolutely take, and it looks like they are going to go for the aggressive retake here, but Banana's getting hacked out. There's the EMP shatter. Ouch.
That is a pain personified. And, well, that Toxic will be breathing a sigh of relief, especially with Social Socks getting one frame, but did end up getting traded by Xylo. So it did look a little bit rocky, but the defense can finally stabilize in a much better position compared to that Toxic on the defense.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a messy fight, but they're going to reinforce there, and that late stagger onto Ringo, absolutely huge. The Junkeroos got to be happy with setting up this defense here now, as they've just, especially with that late kill, they've really bought themselves a lot of time, and maybe even they pick a fight here in this 5v6 engagement. Looks like they will.
Yeah, they really did want it. There's the Graviton Surge bringing a hell of a lot of that Toxic in amongst it, but Infinity's the first to go down. Perhaps not the way that he would have really wanted for that one. And now the defense is starting to be bled dry by this side of that Toxic. They're being thrown into the reactor core and just basically being incinerated by the attack of that Toxic, and that's about as clean as you would like for a reply.
Absolutely. Great shatter there from Tranquilo, really countering out that grav, just sending everyone onto the ground, and then the follow through from there is huge off the back of Ringo Stars with the EMP as well. So really nice plays there, and they will very nearly get the second point. It looks like we will have the briefest of engages, but it's just a Sombra trying to stall things out. Bit of an interesting decision there, perhaps some miscommunications, or maybe the team just wasn't ready to go in. But in the end, that is going to be an opportunity for the attackers to surge forwards.
Yeah, and Tranquilo has gone up and did knock a couple down, but nobody's gone down. A big EMP in reply from Xylo. Both of the Sombras have actually had amazing games with amazing follow-ups. So that's Toxic have had the wall put up right in front of them. And now the Junkeroos are really starting to get their teeth dug in to defending this potential attack. We have 3 minutes and 30 for that Toxic to match that 3 points.
Absolutely, they've definitely set up, but they're in a bit of an awkward position here in terms of ultimate economy. They've got Ranksters Grav, but on the other side, Social Stocks is about to have the Tranquility to counter that out. On the flip side, that's going to happen.
Big Graviton Surge, and that entire defense is gone. Enveloped into a ball of pain there, and that's Toxic and wiped out the entire defense. And Junkeroos, they're in 1 or 2 fight territory now with the payload slowly moving towards the point. There is the Graviton committed by a Ragstead there, and maybe not too much avail there, but it is enough of a threat, especially with the Shatter followed up by Infinity, to really stabilize for the Junkeroos.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's a bit unfortunate, even though Social Socks has pulled out the Transcendence, they're still able to bring down Tranquillo during that by charging him into a wall, and the Zen just being a little too far away, the team perhaps a bit too spread out, despite the fact that they had a Transcendence up, which started when they were all in a Grav. As a result, they lose members there when they didn't really need to, and this is going to allow a big opportunity here for the members of the Junkeroos to dig in here.
Yeah, and there's another big shadow, and the EMP to follow it up. EMP on both sides claiming quite bountiful rewards there, and trades going back and forth, but you'll give it to that Toxic, especially with Social Socks being the better Zenyatta there, getting rid of Button. And this payload has had enough of the defense vanquished to make a little bit more progress, and now it is panic station for the Junkeroos. They are living on borrowed time, and Infinity going down is a big impact player that is no longer part of the fight.
Yeah, absolutely. This is big though. This Transcendence, I mean the Grav rather, does get countered out by the sound barrier, and so this is still looking very much like the attackers will get this one through. Big Grav picking up a couple of members as well. Naya getting the kills they need. Infinity getting knocked off the edge with that whip shot. Means it's only a matter of time for this payload to get across. They will be getting this across the line, and they'll be doing it with just under a minute left on the time bank.
Oh, and Buttons did only just get out of the range to get the touch, as did the Wrecking Ball there. So a better attack there for that's Toxic. They have 1 minute and 44 compared to the 1 minute that has been accrued, with it being less than 1 minute on the final time for the red team. They basically have it rounded up to it being 1 minute. So 1 minute 44 for that Toxic, and 1 minute flat for the Junkeroos to get as much progress as they can.
Absolutely, and I think the big takeaway we've seen so far is teams really need to play around their Zenyatta more during Transcendence, as both in that last fight there again, we had a situation where your team has a Transcendence up, and yet people are dying because they're not playing close enough to the Zen to benefit from the healing. I think it just, maybe it's a side effect of the EMP coming out that makes everyone panic and want to spread out for some reason, but people really need to learn to work on their comms and work on their synergy to play in and around that Zenyatta while they're trancing, because it is almost impossible for you to die if you do so. And for some reason, we just aren't seeing it here. Regardless, it looks like we will be seeing a bit more of the same. That said, we will have Sombras on both sides here for this first point, as the Junkeroos look to set their time bank time. They need to get the quick cap, but so far A has been falling very quickly for both sides.
They'll have to get the mirror of exactly that, and then just stick to the payload like glue. Tranquillo gets completely antsy, got bored extremely low, but now the healers for the defense are really putting in the work, and that's one fight done, and emphatically taken by that Toxic, and we are down to under 20 seconds now, and it's going to be a scramble fight for the Junkeroos to even have a chance of getting any progress, let alone taking the point.
Absolutely, and a lot of ultimates about to come online for the defenders as well. Tranquilla has his shatter. There it is. It is absolutely huge, and Bananas is going to get pinned into a wall there. This is a dangerous position to be in.
Extremely dangerous, but there is a Zarya and a Deezer charge with the nano boost, but no comrades around to capitalize on the rest of the damage. And Tranquilo puts the cold shoulder to the Zarya, and that is the attackers shut out for the Junkeroos. Now that's Toxic only have to get 33% of progress on the points for it to count as a map win, and we will go to map 5 if that's the case.
Absolutely, and they've basically got 3 chances roughly to do it, especially with how the rough time of these fights and the sort of turnaround. They're going to have 3 attempts at it. That does mean that they get an extra attempt beyond what the Junkeroos got. Certainly, though, they want to do it in the first one. Any fights they lose gives the defenders, by default, a chance to build ultimates faster. They don't really have time to get in the full ultimate rotation, so they would much rather it be a one and done than to try and clutch it through on the second or third fight. That said, that first pick can swing things quite a bit, so that could be a big opportunity as well. Regardless, we will be seeing the dueling Sombras once again from these teams, and it's otherwise looking like a complete mirror match. There's going to be a lot of pressure here on the defenders to be able to keep this one going, and they probably need to be a bit more proactive than we've seen teams be on this point A defense. They need to take the initiative into their hands and aggress onto the enemy, catch them off guard, and win the fights that way. That's usually a better way to go, but it's just not something we've been seeing so far on this point A defense, at least.
Being extremely passive there has been the order of the day, and that's Toxic are already out and about, and Ringo Stars is in a really precarious position right above the point. Infinity was the high value target and got the hack off. So that shield is no longer up. It is effectively useless, could not call it to arms, and that is a big call for that Toxic to start enveloping onto the point. A lot of damage laid down. Nobody hit the deck, but the side of the Junkeroos are coming extremely close, and that is the first casualty. That being Infinity, and that Toxic are starting to pull their tide towards the point. And now that the main contributors in terms of the healing are now down and out of the fight, and a lot are off of the point, you can pretty much give this to that Toxic, barring any heroic efforts. That is a big roll in from the Hammond of Infinity. I'm sorry, Hammond, you will be sent back to the pet store, and we are tied at 2 after King's Row. Huge attack there from that Toxic.
Absolutely, you really have to give it out to Ringo Stars there. They did so much on that Sombra. The opening hack, of course, providing a lot of pressure onto the defenders. But beyond that, their consistent threat from an off angle really stretched the resources of the Junkeroos. In the end, they actually committed their Zarya to try and see off the Sombra, and unfortunately that means that the Reinhardt there is left all by himself, and Infinity, without the support of his Zarya, does eventually get taken down and overwhelmed by that Toxic. So great plays there by Ringo Stars to just really stretch the defenders, be a nuisance, be a thorn in their side, force them to commit resources they simply cannot afford to commit to deal with that threat, and as a result, create the opening for his front line to push through and break the members of Junkeroos over their knee.
And now in the back and forth affair, it looks like we will conclude this set on Ilios with a little bit of sunshine and a little bit of a break to basically get both of these teams to basically find their center, because this set has been going for about an hour and 20 minutes, so a little bit of a break is always good. And well, how would you really rate this set, Peronius? It's been back and forth and a real battle of the tanks, and well, basically the all-encompassing character being the Brigitte.
Been a bit of an all-in barroom brawl. Both these teams really being quick to swing the punches back. If there's an opportunity given to them by someone overextending, they will turn around and take a team fight there and then. And we've seen both these teams very willing to do it. So It's going to be interesting to see if that continues to be the case here as we load into Ilios Ruins, because this one, a map with a bit more sightlines available, it can be a bit harder for that style of play, especially if one of the teams does opt into those sort of long-range threats that you can bring out here. But who knows? It's really down to the teams for what they're going to pick here. Looks like we may be seeing a duel of the Widowmakers, however.
Yes, it's been a well-documented stomping ground for Widowmakers because of the long sight lines that basically encompass the entire point and amongst the Acropolis in the middle. So we'll see Ringo Stars and Xylo lock horns as the long-range and deadly snipers. And go! Map number 5 between that Toxic and the Junkeroos for the Amateur Australia Overwatch League is now alive and well. And Ringo Stars is already in a prime position and already going at it and loses the first duel against Xylo. So that will give the Junkeroos the first advantage. And it was extremely quick to game.
Absolutely. I don't know if I like Cash's Brigida pick here, given that the tanks are going to be running those dive tanks as well. Bananas on the Hanzo is going to provide a lot more support in these long-range sniper duels and already picking up a couple of kills as well. Ringo has made it back on, but that is going to be an early point split for the members of the Junkeroos here. And looks like we will see Tranquillo shift over to the Reinhardt there. That's going to synergize a lot better with Cash. But at the same time, it's going to be even harder to get at these snipers. Although if Ringo can keep up that performance, that may not be a problem.
Will be a high value target. No matter the composition, you always got to watch your head. It's the same in any game that involves long range weaponry, especially ones with the scope. Big anti-nade onto that Toxic, and Infinity will put the fire right to Naya on fire, and now Naya is out on the bench, and Xylo is now leading the duel 2-1 against Ringo Stars. And that might actually be the cue for that Toxic to evacuate unless Naya can claim a frag with the particle cannon and the assistance of their teammates.
It looks like Ringo will swap over to the Sombra here, but we're still just sort of edging at this point now. We do have Cash.
Oh my goodness!
The rally, but the kill's still coming through. Infinity gets another big shatter. Does get punished for it, but the damage has been done. And it's really going to only be a matter of time until the last few members of that Toxic are ejected from this.
A little bit of a side note there with that little exclamation from me. It was because Bananas had basically nailed Ringo Stars right in the mouth when they were in their stealth form. So a little bit of a rough time there. And Bananas does have the Dragon Strike at the ready. Infinity had been hacked there by Ringo Stars, so that is definitely something to keep an eye on. There is the Graviton Surge and the Dragon Strike to follow. The Transcendence will keep everybody at bay, but that huge anti-nade will basically nullify that Transcendence, and that is going to be a world of hurt and dragons there for the side of that Toxic to really comprehend. And that will be the bell sounding and a complete and utter shutout for the Ruins as the Junkeroos are one round away from taking the set.
Absolutely, and the Junkeroos did look very good on our first control map on Lijiang Tower, so perhaps it's not too surprising to see them really bring it back here. I think the biggest surprise for me in that previous round was that even though both teams were opting for the Widowmaker there, neither team bringing out the Mercy, so often seen in those Widow duels to give your Widowmaker that second chance if they do get picked. So a bit interesting that neither team going to pull out the Mercy there, but it looks like we will be seeing a Mercy here on the part of the Junkeroos as they will be putting Bananas over onto the Pharah, so there's going to be a Pharmacy in the sky. That's going to be difficult to answer to. Let's see if Ringo has the McCree chops to do it.
See, or will he have blisters on his fingers and be unable to hold the Peacekeeper properly? Big dig on a Bananas, bringing him extremely low. And gets Button, as a matter of fact, and forces the res out. Asa did get Button back into the fight, but ended up sacrificing a lot of health because of it. Big anti-nade onto the members of that Toxic. No members going down, but definitely making them run a little bit more cautiously and a little bit more timidly. But that Toxic do have the positional advantage and start accruing percentage first, but that might be a small consolation given 2 members have gone down.
Yeah, absolutely. A huge amount of pressure going on to the remaining members here of That's Toxic as the cleanup comes through. They're going to have this point be flipped. It's just a matter of when, and it looks like it'll be at about 18 or 19%, but the flip does come through and the Junkeroos begin building up their own progress. So the Junkeroos definitely in the driver's seat here. Button's already got the nano boost available. That probably goes on to Rankster just to get the Winston ult online. They're also very close to a lot of their other ultimates, whereas a couple members of That's Toxic really trailing behind here. And that's not the position you really want to be playing from if you need to retake the point.
Definitely not. And there is the barrage online. It does get rid of Cash, and Button will dilute Tranquilo into scrap. That is Ringo Starr telling the time, and Ada and Farah, both the family tree for Bahari will be sent to the bench. But it is all for naught. Infinity will actually get rid of Ringo Stars using the pulse pistol after the ejection. Infinity will call another back downward. But it looks like the entirety of the Junkeroos were completely preoccupied there. So the point will flip back over for them.
The Deadeye from Ringo was huge. It picks up 2 and the DMAC. They were not in a position to be able to contest that capture. They were still coming back from spawn. But that's huge.
Big EMP, just as the self-destructive Infinity laid right at the feet of the Reinhardt, the entire contingent of That's Toxic in the point, and you couldn't have put that better if you tried. That is just cinematic material.
No, absolutely. You can't be relying on that Reinhardt shield to keep you safe from the bombs if the enemy has a Sombra. You know that's the case, but unfortunately, you don't have a lot of time to get to safety when that bomb gets thrown out. Textbook plays there, and Xylo really putting in the work to give that player the game to
Into the iris.
Well, almost a certainty that he gets player of the game. The Valkyrie does go out from Acer to keep everybody up and out of range status, swinging around, making everybody on the opposition feel the back of his hand. There's not to be. Castex has gotten rid of bananas, and Acer has used the Resurrect to get Infara back in the fight, but sacrificed their life for it. And, well, the Junkeroos will have to pull the plug on it. And, yeah, they did come close to 99%, stalling it at 94, but the new lease on life has been given to That's Toxic as they take control of the point. But to their detriment, they don't have any ults online, and it's going to take a while for one to get online.
Exactly, they don't have any ults and they don't have any spare ground. Ringo Starr's getting very close to that Jedi, however, that can take the pharmacy out of the air, and it looks like that's what he's going to try and do. They all get eaten by Infinity and they've lost social stocks already. This is looking very good.
Yeah, big Babson over reliance there on the Deadeye of Ringo Stars, and that is the entire defense being collapsed upon, and that is the point flipping over for the Junkeroos. Will they actually get a touch on the side of that Toxic? They are not in the position to do so, and on the back of that, Junkeroos will take the series 3 maps to 2. The GGs are exchanged, and the war is over. Stand down, everyone. A game well played.
And it looks like Bananas actually gets the play of the game. Okay, I suppose that was a very big, Dragons, a lot of damage put down and participation in the follow-up kills, so I guess that's warranted. It just caught me so by surprise. I was so sure it was going to be Infinity's Diva Bomb there, but nonetheless, that will be our series with the Junkeroos taking down That's Toxic. What a series, very close games and very well played by all of these players.
Indeed, and as you did say, it was almost a flat-out brawl for all 5 of the maps. It was a sweet science, but perhaps not the sweet science in terms of boxing. It's more a full-blown fight club type feel where you wrap your wrists in tape, dip them in glue with glass, and go hammer and tongs. And we basically saw that type of fighting style from both of these sides, and it was a treasure to watch.
Absolutely. And so that's going to be the end of that series, but stick with us, everyone. We will be having another game very shortly. as we bring you Omega Lull versus Era 404, which is due to start in just a couple of minutes. So we'll be taking a very short break just as we change over our teams, and then we'll be straight back into it here on the AOE.